Okay, we have Kate and Valda with us now.
Yay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hello out there.
Yes. Hello to you. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody. I see some fresh faces. Or not completely fresh, but Steffi and Mary, Caroline.
Hi,
Hello.
Keith. I just wanted to say hi. I haven't seen you in a long time, so I just
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
to say hi to you too. Say
Yeah.
hello.
Yeah, so nice to see you, Mary.
Good to see you too. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. So nice to see you. Yeah.
Minnesota?
Minnesota, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mary White.
We're
I don't
still
know if I met Mary, but I've heard about Mary for a long time.
Maybe
well,
have
we
you,
met virtually, Velda. I took a couple of the classes and we talked on that, but I think we've only met virtually. So
Okay.
well, welcome.
Hi, Mary.
Oh, there's Sandy Cross.
Hey, hi. Oh, I haven't seen you for ages. How are you doing?
I know. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Oh, you
Long
look great.
home week.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
I feel drawn to come on here to say hello to everybody and reconnect.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Great.
So
How nice.
who's on the beach?
Who's on the beach?
Look at the beach. Look at the water. There's
Oh, that's
palm
Sandy.
trees.
It's
No,
an
Oh,
illusion.
Carolyn, I'm sorry. That's
Not
Carolyn.
me.
It's illusion.
yeah.
Yeah.
You need to get one of those backgrounds. That'd be great.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
easy. You just go into your video at the bottom and do the little arrow. It's right there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's a
It
background.
looks so
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
It
The
does.
waves.
The wind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
I notice her hair's not blowing though. That's
You have to tie your hair back to do that.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
COVID haircut.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe have a fan on, so that
Yeah.
make sure it's
Oh,
going the
yeah,
same direction
fan.
as
That'd
the
be great.
trade winds or whatever.
Or have it going the opposite
I'll do that next time.
That's great. That's
So
great.
where did Brett go? We
Uh,
lost Brett.
he maybe, I don't know. Maybe let's go to the gallery. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Here's everybody.
Yeah. We just had like 7 people on our screen there for a while.
Yeah, yeah. I had no idea we had so many more. Oh, hi, Maureen.
Hey, hi.
Good to see you.
It's nice to see you. Both.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. We got such a, and Steffi. Steffi from New Zealand. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hello, everybody. So nice to see you. My goodness. Well, where do we begin? Like,
I don't know, Barbie, you got any questions for us?
I haven't got any questions from the audience yet, so
Okay.
if anybody would like to say something, please unmute yourself and then we can get going.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so
I
this
have
is,
a question.
I always
Okay.
have questions, but I have to write them down to remember them, and I'm propped up right now. So
Oh, okay.
I'll find them after I later,
yeah, yeah.
or I'll remember what they are.
Okay.
After the town hall's over, you'll find the questions, right? Yeah.
Right, I'll find the questions. They're in my question file.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Gil's got something.
I've
We'll get
got
it.
something. So
Great.
thank you all for doing this again. Once again, it's great. It's really great of
Yeah.
you to do this. So I
Yeah.
appreciate
Oh, it's wonderful.
it. I've been reading a couple of your articles on your website recently, and once again, it's been brought to my attention about how challenging the three principles viewpoint and understanding is to shall we say, traditional psychology and traditional psychotherapy, and even how challenging, shall we say, that Sydney Banks has been or was on occasion to psychologists and psychotherapists. And I read that one article where he was, what was it, at the University of West Virginia or something, where they had, were considering having a program or even had a plaque for him, I think. And I keep reading that, hoping for there to be a happy ending, but it never seems to come up. I'll read it a few more times, but
yeah.
But my question is it ever of value to go? I mean, it's kind of like traditional psychology or psychotherapy, dealing with the past events, things from the past, and recalling past kinds of maybe trauma or things like that. And I really appreciate that in the principles that we are more present oriented. And but is it ever of value to intentionally, to deliberately go into the past, to think about things, maybe even things that we haven't even really thought about for years, but to just kind of intentionally go there to consider them, to review them from our understanding of the principles and of inside out thinking and outside in thinking. I don't know, I think that things way in the past could still have some energy in our bodies, even tension and things like that, even though we don't really think about them that often. So is there, again, any value to going back there and considering those events, maybe even into childhood and things like that, from our better understanding? So.
I could say something. I think that we sometimes do that on our own. I think that sometimes memories will just insightfully come to mind, and new thoughts will come to mind about it. A lot of time resolves, stuff like that. I'm not trying to do it.
Yeah.
It's just, here it comes, And I think that I see that for other people. There's times you may be working with someone and they go, oh, and then they tell you about something they've just seen in a new way.
Yeah.
It was a surprise to them. They'd always seen it in a more of a negativistic way. Yeah. And now they saw it as in a healthier way. And they realized it wasn't really a problem anymore. So I've seen that without anything from me about that.
Yeah.
So I know it happens to me, and I see that it happens to others. I don't know if actively doing it is the greatest idea.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. Actively, you're suggesting that that stuff is sort of solid, and it's the way you think about it is what it is, and nothing more than that. So I don't know about making it more real, how good of an idea that is.
Right.
Just from, now some people are determined to talk about it, and there's nothing you can do but listen. And so I run into that, and I think, okay, this is one of those. They're determined. I'll be a great listener here. So, I'm not going to say, don't talk about that. So, and as you work with them, they'll start to get the idea of what, they'll start to hear some of the stuff you're saying, and then they get less encouraged to do that. A lot of them, that's the only thing they've ever done in therapy. you know, and so I see why they would do it. That's what they think they're supposed to be there doing. So that's what I would say about it.
The other thing too, Gil, that you mentioned that the idea of energy or stored energy in the body, let's say, or but still those are those being thought rather than a thing, you know, rather than a
Circumstance.
well, rather than a circumstance, to be, you know, specific about it, and according to the line about it, and the line I'm referring to is in our diagram, but it's not actually behind us here. But the line being how the principles work. The principles have are always in the present moment. Like if you think about it, like a principle would have to be not in time. You know, if something's a principle, it'll be true
I get that.
in 100 years, you know, or 1,000 years. It's not something that is related to time. And finding principles in psychology has really revolutionized our comprehension. One of the things that I heard Sid remark the other day in a recording was that that life is a cosmic pattern of thought and matter. Thought meaning the principles, as I hear what he was referring to. So thought is really fundamentally key to existence, and so those memories, or the load on those memories, or the energy around them, or in the body, the idea that they're stored in the body somehow, not via thought, but again, Sid's definition of mind is that it's a power that acts as a catalyst. It's not a thing, it's not a thought, but it's a power that acts as a catalyst and turns our thought, whether conscious or unconscious, into the reality we now see. And that being the case, then thought is absolutely fundamental to experience. And so this notion of stored memories or stored things in the body somehow is really not it's not principle based. It's another false psychology, you might say. Now we could say that this true psychology, or this principle based psychology, reveals that if it's there in thought, and as such it's transcendable, or forgivable, or resolvable by the principles. And so by insight, like Valda's mentioning, via insight. So the release of that thought is the release of that problem. And as such, that's why people, you know, when you think about it, various people go beyond their past traumas, or maybe they didn't even get traumatized in the first place because they didn't have traumatic thought. So it explains the panorama of the human experience in a beautiful way. It simplifies it and avoids all of those other factors that psychology is always in their beliefs have believed in. So the stored memories and stored traumas and stored you know, there are other places of power, like even the cognitive school. The head of the founder of cognitive therapy said that thought plays a role, but and he wasn't talking about principles. But he said thought plays a role in the human experience. But then there's also moods, and there's also the past. Well, with these revelations of the principles, moods and the past are also thought. And so the cognitive school has these other forces, and every other non-principle based psychology has other forces. And this is where the psychology, where the principles really simplify, clarify, and really help us to know what's up, you know, with our experience and with the experience of our clients. And I think that's really, really important. It's really distinct and really different. As you're suggesting it is.
Yeah, that's what comes to mind, is that it focuses and simplifies.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Even when you start to get out on the unconscious and memories and things like that, this brings you back into reality.
Yeah. It's
Into reality.
far more efficient. I remember I was about, I don't know, 25, 27 when I first met Sid. And I had been in the habit of thinking about things to try to get them off my mind or to try to resolve them. And not a terrible habit, but I did it. And then I made him and I listened to him and I thought, so you mean just quit doing that? You know, it's like, are you sure? And I did, and it was so fascinating, the things that would then insightfully come to mind, clear themselves up and be gone. It was so fast comparatively. I thought, well, there is an efficiency here I can't help but notice. And I didn't know what was going to insightfully come to mind next. Things that I would never have thought about ever. Here they are. They run this, you know, they go through my mind, and then I see it in a different way, and it's resolved, which is really nice. And I didn't even know that I would ever need to think about that. It was not on my list. I could say that. So not on, and the order was like a cosmic joke, you know. These things would come up. I thought, this is gonna come to mind. You got to be kidding me. And just what came to mind and how it came, you know, the order it came to mind was a total surprise, which I couldn't help but like that. I thought, I like new. This is great. You know,
it's like a maintenance system or something, like
that you don't operate.
That you don't operate. Yeah, it just.
Yeah.
I remember Sid saying once, when a fact is revealed, the ego collapses on a particular subject, and there are trillions of subjects. So as this kind of cleansing mechanism, I just got my computer back from the repair shop, and they cleaned up the viruses and the all
the memory, right?
Malware, and the memory, like, so I mean, so that you could just live and be happy, and if something occurs that needs to be cleansed, it will
alert you.
Yeah, it'll take care of itself, you know. And so, I mean, what a wonderful opportunity to enjoy your life and relax and have less on your mind, you know, that you don't have to, the thing to do, you know, to go back there and let's rehearse this, or let's think about this, or let's clean this up. is really, it's definitely an overdue, and definitely a man-made system of memory cleansing that is really pretty lame, really. Like it's sort of like going in, it's kind of like man tinkering with, or you tinkering with your God-given nature, not necessary.
Not necessary.
The job you can resign from that job, and that's wow, what a wonderful freedom that is.
Well, times when I've actually gone back, and thought about things that were troubling in my past, the charge is not there anymore. But like you said, I mean, once I've done that, it's kind of like, okay, I don't need to do this anymore. This is the way it's going to be. I think with all those kinds of problems from the past and all that, I don't even need to go back and consider them anymore. So waste of time.
It's like the energy gets deactivated, so it's not, then it's not a problem, or it's just, something happened, but it doesn't have any load on it any longer. So that's a beautiful gift, really, the nature of the principles.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot more about insight. I mean, I thought, whoa, this is great. Because I would learn things specifically about specific instances, but they would generalize into eternity and forever, and it's always been this way, and to the big picture. And I thought, wow, I had no idea I was going to get to learn this. And literally completely forgive someone to the point that I had I had no bad feeling whatsoever, and haven't ever since. And I thought, man, this is how it was. You just start to learn the power of it, the intelligence of it. So it's like, that's a great thing to get to learn about. And then you start to have it be more active in other parts of your life. That's great. That's what I love, I think, the most about the principles, is that it just teaches you about insight and teaches you about insight all the time. You got
Thank you.
anything, Brett? Yeah. You got anything, Brett?
It's an interesting question. From my memory, I have a couple of friends who call themselves energy healers. Now I knew there was a word called energy, but I was like, I don't know what it's about. It's like, I don't know. But when but one of them, I started talking to somebody, and they were explaining what it's about, right? And I got more and more interested. And it became clear that energy seemed to have a world of its own that doesn't seem to corroborate with the physical world that we live in. It's actually, we've got its own rules. But what was interesting to me was, as I was learning about energy, I was going about it in a number of different directions. But as I was learning about energy, with the principles included, I was understanding the energy world in a different way that I didn't have before. So as I learned more about the principles, my understanding of the energy world changed with it. So I became more respectful of that there is energy, that there is a thing to be happening. Right? But as I learned about thought, I realized what I was doing was I had more peace of mind about what I was doing with the energy rather than what I had to do with the energy in order to change the way I feel, or to have the feeling that I wanted to have, or to get rid of the feeling I didn't want to have anymore. Which was a really interesting idea to me. It was like, oh, but as I understood it more, the energy blockages that I had didn't look like it to me at first, but as I started tuning into it, because I knew I was protected by the principle of thought, I was like, oh, so what thought got something to do with it? And I'm like, okay, I didn't know what the thought would be, but the principle itself has something to do with it. So that gave me a direction to look at. Right? And as I would keep looking in that direction, then unexpectedly I would get an insight. And as Father said, complete surprise. He often is. Right? So I was surprised, was like, oh, so this is what's going on. Completely unexpected. And I'm like, oh, right. So now that I knew that was going on, it wasn't that I had to do something about it or that. It was like, it was the beginning of the blockers having changed, being released. It was like a solid thing, but it was not so solid anymore. It started to become free again. And then eventually it wasn't really in me anymore. It was like, oh, the principles apply to the energy world too. So, yeah, so, but I'm not an expert on energy world. There are people who've studied in it for years, and I have a lot of respect for people who want to use energy to help people in a beneficial way. So that's all I can say at the moment.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say?
Yeah.
I can share a little story. So
Okay.
I have several friends, but one in particular who feels that she reads people's energy. And what was interesting to me is she said, you have the energy of a deer in the headlights. and a deer that does not want to be seen. And I thought, well, that was pretty interesting. And if I were to use that as an analogy, I would say that probably would be a pretty good analogy for me years ago, before I discovered the principles and before I became, well, before I, the degree of shyness that I used to live in dissolved, or whatever it does, left me. So I thought that was sort of interesting. And, you know, and I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of people who say they can read energy and you know, but I still think, from my point of view, that it, you know, however it manifests, it still has to come from the principles. And whether people can read it at that level, or, I mean, sense it, or obviously it's a thought that they have. So it's got to be their interpretation. But I thought it was sort of interesting when she had shared this with me years ago, and I could, as I thought about it later, I thought, well, you know, that could be, that metaphor fit for me at one time in my life. Anyway, for whatever it's worth, about energy.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it was right about how you used to be.
Yeah.
You know,
definitely.
But it was no longer right anymore. I lost her. Oh, there she is over there. Yeah.
I think too, you know, when the countenance of a person, the peace of a person, the present-mindedness of a person, you know, the you know, when, you know, in all those kind of holy paintings, they would always have like a halo or a blue or a bright light, or around figures of people of knowledge. Must be some sort of purity of consciousness, purity of thought, purity of mind. But I think that's where I think all that's that radiance of lack of ego, or lack of outside in thinking, is a nature that we must have. It might be hidden or covered up, but by errant thinking, but as such, I mean, I could imagine where we're going, what we're learning about, what we're returning to is a greater an existence of that sort. So it's really pretty simple, really. I mean, you can see the distress. I can see the distress in me. I can see the distress in others, and I can see the lack of distress in me and the lack of distress in others, and the resonance of that that beauty that we all possess within is a wonderful thing.
We have another question. It comes from Khalifa. I think I pronounced it right. I'm not sure. But
Oh yeah, there you are. I see you in the darkness there.
Yeah.
Hi.
he asked a question. What is deep listening?
I think it's something that happens to you. I wish I could just turn it on, any old time I wanted. You seem to find yourself there, and you find yourself very quiet, and you just hear things that you've maybe never heard before. And a lot of times it's you hear in a way that it changes you for the better. So I like that it goes beyond what you currently know. What do you say?
Ditto.
Ditto.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful way to say it.
I know for me, if I'm listening to someone else, like a client, I'll listen, and then I'll hear something and I have a feeling of curiosity. Like I don't really know what that means to that person. And I think when I'm full of my own ideas about what I think would be helpful to them, I'm not listening at that level. But when I'm listening to one, I guess, this isn't conscious, but to want to know more, to want to understand, to see what does that really mean? I know there's underneath and underneath and underneath, which may or may not need to be seen, but it's an experience I have frequently, and it's like my experience is wanting to know more. Like, I can't think of a great example right now, but you used that term a couple of times. what does that mean to you or whatever? And somehow that gets, the conversation goes deeper. So that would be, I mean, another way of thinking about that. But it's not something you do. I mean, and I think that has been something that's been, I felt I interpreted that statement or that advice or whatever in a way that it looked like something I needed to do, like I needed to have a quiet mind, or I needed to empty my mind, or something or other. But I agree with you guys that it's something that happens, and you know when, I mean, you get a feeling when that happens. And I want to, well, yeah. Tell me more about that.
I kind of think it happens when you get beyond your own personal ego, and then you're just open to things and connected to wisdom, and that's when things come to you.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I can add to that a little bit, two things happen to me when it comes to listening. One is that as I was listening, I would then realize, oh, the way I've been listening is not listening, because I realized I was outside in about something. And when I realized I was outside in about that, I was like, there's no point carrying that with me. The next time I would listen, that kind of thing. And then suddenly I found myself listening deeper and not having any idea how I did it. And then the same thing happened again. And then the same thing happened again. And then the same thing happened again. If you kept unfolding, I'm picking up my outside in when I'm listening that I had no idea I had, right? And I think this is what Bob meant by when you go beyond your personal ego. I was picking up my ego as I was going along, not having any idea I had it. Right? But because there was a pattern going on, right, I was like, given the way I listen now compared to how I listened before, I had no idea whatsoever I was going to be able to listen the way I do now. So I'm like, oh, all these different ideas of listening, active listening, deep listening, listening with a quiet mind or whatever, it was like, no, that's not it, it's something deeper. And I'm like, oh, just drop all those ideas, just carry on the way I'm doing, let it all happen, and then I'll just advise as I go along. And here I am, listening in a wonderful world. So,
I guess for me, I find myself kind of like when I'm standing on 2 feet, I kind of rock myself back and forth. Listening to me also is that when I don't know what I'm going to say, when I don't know what I'm going to think in this moment, I feel like that's when I'm really listening deeply to myself. And it's the same way with someone else. It's like I know the feeling I have is when I'm feeling so safe and comfortable with myself that I'm not busy in my thoughts managing myself. And so it's kind of like I come in and out of that, because when I see and I notice now, I'm more aware of when I'm getting in my own way with my own thoughts, I'm insecure, whatever's, it kind of rocks me back into, oh, so it's like I kind of in and out of it. And so I find that, and I feel the difference when I'm not and then when I am. And it's sometimes hard for me to stay in that place of being so in the moment with all this curiosity and really openness. But that's where I like to be. But it's almost like when I'm not there, that helps point me back there.
I just had to realize it's like all of a sudden I'll realize I'm thinking about other things that I shouldn't be thinking about right now, and I just go back. I just quit thinking about it, and I thought that's the best I got right now. I didn't mean to go away. I didn't mean to start thinking about something else, but I had to get over getting mad at myself about it a long time ago. Because when I first met Sid, I thought, oh, I should be doing this differently, and I had all these ideas about it, and then I thought, I'm driving myself crazy here. So I just thought, well, whenever you realize you're gone, come back.
I realized that about, stories of Sid, like because he was just really very gifted of like coming back, like dropping things. He would drop things like, like the proverbial hot potato, so things would get on his mind, and then by the time the rest of us were trying to reckon with what he'd brought up, he was over it and back in the present moment. So he was in a way childlike in that respect. But that's our so it definitely makes the going away no big deal, and the return trip easier and easier to be grateful for.
As you go along, it becomes not as tempting to stick with the thing that you're not supposed to be thinking about at the moment. Something you've got a client right in front of you and you're thinking about the automobile or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Or something that somebody said yesterday, or it goes on and on.
Yeah, it goes on and on.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's not as tempting. It's like, oh, I've gone away from the moment.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah. And so I'm not tempted to hang in there with it.
Yeah. I think it must have been more. I mean, before the principles for me, all of that was up for grabs. Like I was just sort of
swimming in a sea.
Yeah, like I could go over into the sewage or go over into the clear, whatever. Like I just didn't know there was a sensibility about it, or a direction, or a feeling feedback system, or anything that of intelligence. The mental intelligence was eluded me, and when I met Sid and started to hear, oh no, there's a whole cosmic intelligence here, and it has dimensions to it, and it has directions to it. That really helped me a lot, to find where I was and where I was going, and get oriented, and I think I was just lost, and I think people often they're just lost. They just have no compass. They have no bearing. They're just, everything is just everything is true and nothing is true, or so, so sort of like like a ship without any mooring or anchor or anything. It's just at sea with life tossing you around.
A lot of the things you've been saying are really resonating, and I identify the one thing that keeps cropping up at the moment, and it really is about direction, is I lose my direction when it comes to other people, meaning I kind of lose the clarity when I think I'm being caring by taking somebody else's problems on. And it's causing me so much of my own mental stress. I've never done this before. I've known this direction for about 8 years, and I've known how to sense it. And I feel lately, when it comes to other people, like if I deeply care about them, like good friends or family, and they're going through something, I started taking it on. And I miss the direction. And I'm only seeing, funny, I'm only seeing what I'm doing by the amount of stress it's causing me. So now I know I've done something wrong here. But it's like, this is happening again and again and again recently. Like, what? How can I be so stupid? I'm still not really seeing it on the forefront. I'm only seeing it afterwards.
Yeah. I think that's how you start learning about things. You know, you get glimpses almost. I would think, oh, I think I almost saw something, you know. But I get it. What I've learned is that you have many more chances. So,
yeah.
There's a lifetime of more of that coming at you.
Thank you.
I think that too, you as you become different and see things differently, you have to find a new vocabulary to talk to people with, because I really didn't want to commiserate with people. I thought that's no good. And I thought, well, what do I say? Because I genuinely care about them. I want to say something that's honest. And I just realized, oh, I'm going to need new language here. And it was just things like people could tell me something and I could heart and soul listen. And then rather than commiserate, I could say, I'm sorry you're having trouble with that. Now that was true. I didn't make it any more real necessarily. I didn't want to talk about it a whole lot more. I didn't try to solve it for them.
Or think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't try to solve it for them.
Yeah.
I just told them I'm sorry that was problematic for them. So I think you find new ways to be still honest and genuine with people, because that's important. People feel that stuff, you know. And so I thought, oh, I'm good at being honest, and I need to find a way to keep being honest.
But can I ask you?
Sure.
When you're that's really actually very helpful. And what I'm hearing in that is that you're not getting sucked in.
Right.
You're not seeing it as a problem. That's the exact part I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
So
I hear you.
I almost feel like.
Yeah.
I almost feel like just so like, how can I not get sucked in right now? Just because that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. But you're seeing it. You're talking about it. That's great.
And once you're sucked in, it's too late. You know, like, so you just missed it. You know, like, so it's okay. It's just, you know, drop it, you know, or face it, or like you know, you're there's no problem. It's just it's just a is it somebody here?
It's probably Maddie. Okay.
Oh, Maddie's here. Okay. Hey, should we introduce Maddie to the? I mean,
we do from time to time.
Yeah, well, this is.
You may ask her if she wants to be, and I don't know.
Well, maybe she doesn't want to be, but we could introduce her anyway. So our daughter's here. So hey, Maddie.
Did you hear her say "oh"?
Oh.
All you have to do is say hello.
There's a large group. This is our town hall meeting that we have every 6 weeks. So.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, she's got. Can you take your mask off? Oh, but no, you need to have it on because
I'm gonna keep my mask on. I just went to a wedding, so I have to leave my mask on because I was just with a bunch of people during this crazy COVID time. So this is for them.
This is it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Susie.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Patty.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, this present momentness of existence is a kind of again, it's a kind of like one of the things that Sid would often say, he said it a lot, actually, was you missed it. But he wasn't like saying, you're now condemned to hell for the rest of existence or whatever. Like, it was just like, okay, I missed it, and now I see that I missed it, and I can start over again. You can start fresh, and that's really remarkable, a remarkable truth about the nature of life and existence, is that you can start over. I mean, the name of his first book, of course, was Second Chance, and the starting over ness is it's more important than the getting lost, and so you can so there's that. I don't know how else to say. What else to say about that? But
I think when you work with people for a living, you get a lot of chances to be tempted to want to help them fix things. And then you also we do follow-up with clients when we work with them. And so you hear about once they go home and some of the things that unfold and happen. And you're like, Keith he had this couple was, the daughter had to move back in with the mother and the stepdad, and they moved him out of his office for that to happen. He was ready to get a divorce. And
he was jammed into this little tiny space, and the daughter and the granddaughter had the master bedroom, and it was just a mess. And then at some point he says, toward the end of the time they were here, he just happens to say something about, I came upstairs and I said, upstairs? Now, what do you mean upstairs? Well, the first floor is unfinished. And I said, what do you mean unfinished? He said, well, there's no walls or anything in there, but we have 2 floors, and the first floor there's nothing there. So I said, so all 4 of you are living in half the space that you're paying for. Is that what you're saying? He says, well, yeah, you can put it that way. I said, well, that's really interesting. And then the wife says, honey, we could get a loan from the credit union and finish out the first floor, and then we would have twice as much space, and
we wouldn't have to get a divorce.
And you could have a huge office, and and all of a sudden all their problems just completely disappeared. They just had like a breath of fresh air, and it was so it was giggly time. They just got giggly about, oh my God, like literally right under their feet was the solution to everything. But in the spirit, it occurred to them, and they just they left happy campers.
But Keith had no idea they had an unfinished floor. He had a huge
I don't
piece.
think they had any idea they had an unfinished.
I don't think they did either. True. Yeah. There's just a lot of things that people don't think to tell you about that are going to end up being their solution, such that you just think, this is not a good idea, me trying to solve their problem. They know so much more about their life than I do.
Yeah.
And so it really helps you. You run it, you try it, you do a few of those, and then find out they got an unfinished bottom floor that they've never told you about, and you don't. You become a little less encouraged about your helpful solutions.
Your
for
problem
them.
solving.
Yeah.
And the unknown, like the unknown, they don't forget about the unknown. Like the unknown is where,
even
that's
when
what
there
you're looking.
isn't an unknown bottom floor, just people having new ideas is where they, they change and they learn to deal with their own problems themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's that they understand that they don't think in an outside-in way, and it doesn't work. That it doesn't work that way, and they understand the three principles. They understand that what they're experiencing is their own thinking, and it solves a whole lot of things. It's like it's a big eraser or something.
Yeah. I think, I remember Sid saying, but he said, people don't realize they're looking for the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really helpful to me. I thought, oh, yeah, okay. I don't know, and you don't know what to think about the unknown, right? I mean, so it's again, it's a new moment.
That was really helpful because I didn't see myself as taking on their problems as I'm trying to fix their problems, but that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
It's hard not to.
And it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
It's a bad form of effort and energy somehow.
It's kind of like saying, okay, you got God going for you here, but I've got a screwdriver and a little hammer. Let me do it for you. Like you think, what were you thinking?
And meanwhile, that's putting the hammer away as well.
Yeah.
You think, no, let me do the hammer. Let me do the hammer. I know how to do it.
Yeah. Oh boy. Never mind my foolish half-hearted efforts here. I got the intelligence of the universe, but I'll go with what I think. Not such a good idea.
Somebody else got something?
Yeah. Great.
Can I say something?
Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Years ago, when I lived in Australia, I did some work, bioenergetics, biodynamics. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but I believe that the man that developed it was very much ahead of his time. Wilhelm Reich, I think, Doctor. Anyway, I'm just curious, since you're both medical professionals, if you know anything about anybody that's still doing that kind of work, because it's all about energy and blockages.
I don't really.
Is he the one that started the school?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
The Reichian. No, I don't really.
There's a man named Alexander Lowen.
Yes.
Followed in the footsteps of Wilhelm Reich, and he's continued his work and written books about bioenergetics. I don't know if he's still around or not, but there's a name you could look up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't think about energy. I used to, but I don't think about it anymore. I don't know why. Do you?
No. I mean, there's so many things that to me the principles simplify all these other methodologies or approaches or theories or techniques or what have you. They all they're devoid of principles. They're not really principle based, and so without principles, they just haven't. To me now, they have a kind of short-sighted inadequacy, sort of fundamentally, and they. So I haven't had to pursue them or think about them or work with them or investigate them or read about them or study them or whatever, because I've been able to enjoy my free time a lot, a lot more.
I think for me, I could see how the information was going to come to us in thought. So it was like, oh, well, okay. There's really nothing much I have to do here. I actually know a number of healers. They're great. They don't get it right every time, but they help a lot of people. But I don't have that separated out as something that is not principle based somehow. And I like that because I don't feel torn about it.
What do you mean that it's not separated principle based? You don't have it separated out. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that it's going to come to you through thought. Whatever energy you need to learn from whatever energy, you're going to get it through thought. That's going to be your mode of, that's going to be how it comes to you. You'll have some sort of thought to know what you think. So I just don't want to think that it's something separate or different than everything else, because it's really not. It's going to have to go through the old principles just like everything else, So I like that. I like the universality or the oneness of the principles. Really helps me quiet down. I'm not all the time thinking about everything. And that's good for me.
There's an immediacy to the truth of the present moment that the principles continuously invigorate. So it takes other things off the table, or puts them into. Well, you'll hear if you read and study things. I found anywhere I find there's an entity-ness about, like when someone says energy, or let's say, for example, or something else, there's an entity-ness in their mind, in their thinking about it as being something separate, so some other factor, some other existence, some other power. Again, that it starts splitting. There's a splitting that has to happen. So you got this, and then there's something else to think about, and when you think about something as an object, like one of the things that Sid said once that I remembered, because it was such a simple definition of mental sickness and mental health. He said, mental sickness is created when you put feelings onto objects. So that externalization of something, of a power, feeling something, and you put it onto an object. And he said that creates mental sickness. And I can see how that splittingness or splittedness does create another another, it's like a foreign object, let's say, when you put feelings onto objects. But he says, if you can see the objects without the feeling, you're healthy. And so when you can look at things, you can look at objects, this illusion of the mind and the separate mind is really rock bottom to this split between you and everything. And that being a fallacy, it really again returns you to a life without thinking splitting, without your personal thinking splitting off into one place and then another place, and it starts multiplying. It's kind of like it just gets, you can get carried away with things to think about, and that objectification is very it makes you sick.
You get more of an unquiet mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than a quiet mind.
Yeah.
So, and that's worth a lot. It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So back in the 80s, I am Mary White, and I don't know a lot of you on here, but I am a mental health therapist, and I went into the field because I found the principles in my own therapy, and it pretty much saved my life. And so I've never practiced any other form of therapy, if you will, than the three principles. But as a what do you call it? A client. Back in the 80s, I had a therapist who used the biodynamic approach, and she had me read the pleasure principle. I think that's the Alexander Lowen book. I'm not sure now. And as a 23-year-old, I was stricken with such severe anxiety, I could barely function. And so I found this woman who was very kind, but the process was kind of interesting. She would have me do things like hit chairs with tennis rackets and scream, and then lay on the floor and pound my hands and feet. And then when I would get myself worked up, she would have me talk about my dad. And it was very painful, extremely painful. And afterwards, I would feel drained, but nothing ever got resolved. And she was very well-intended and very kind and a very intelligent woman, and I had a good rapport with her. So just having the therapeutic relationship was helpful. But I think when I found the principles, I realized, oh my gosh, there's one answer. And that's why I love the highlighting of the paradigm way of talking about it, because it's this one single fact that when you realize it for yourself or wake up to it for yourself, it's always the same answer. And that one answer can lead in so many different directions and insight. But that kind of chewing over and getting the stuff out of my system kind of left me with, well, I feel drained now, but now what do I do?
Not resolved. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Beautiful.
You know, Keith, when I met him, it was before we met Sid, and he talked poorly about his parents. And then at some point, it was clear we were going to be together, and I think, oh no, I have to meet his parents one of these days, because they just sounded awful. And then I met them, and I thought, well, I kind of like them, you know? I don't see anything wrong with them at all. They're an awful lot like my parents.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, well, what the hell is going on here? And then we met Sid, and all of his issues about his parents just resolved. And I thought, well, now this is more like it, you liking them and respecting them and appreciating everything that they did for you, because they were great parents. And he had just gotten a bad idea from therapy that something was wrong with his parents.
Well, I remember, I mean, coursework after course after course after course was focused on the past and the mother and the father and the, you know, and I mean, it really contaminated me, you know, like this is in my graduate education. Well, it started in my undergraduate, and then it really got serious and kicked into gear in graduate school. And so you know, I just kept irritating you know, and I would listen and think, oh yeah, you know, the subterfuge here, the dark forces in, you know, the Oedipus complex and you know, and so it just created such a dark and a wildly just a personal, theoretical, Freudian, libidinal sewage of thought. I didn't know that thought. So I was the more I was learning, the more sour I got. So when I would go home to visit with my folks, I would see, I'd think, oh, there, you know, my mom's doing up to no good with that kind of thing. And then I would feel contentious and alienated and at odds. And it just got worse and worse. And I met Valda, and she was like, what, you know, and then we went to visit, and then she was like, what is the matter with you? You know, and I said, and I didn't know. I thought she was ignorant of these dark forces. And then I met Sid, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute. Oh no, man, I'm the ignorant one here. You know, I bought a bill of goods. I bought psychology's bill of goods, and I wholeheartedly, you know, thinking that was intelligent, but it wasn't intelligent at all. It was dark ages. It wasn't. There was no guiding principles to any of it, and Sid was very, you know, was like a clarion voice or something like that. He was really so certain about the past and not doing the kinds of things that you know, all of us had been trained to do. That it was like he was like a really a new you know, a breath of fresh air, really. And it really helped me, and it's helped, I know many of you too, and many of my colleagues have really been led out of the woods, you know, on that whole lostness, all with good intentions. You know, in our book, Sid mentions Freud and talks about it, that you know, that he or other theorists as well, that but this is a new day. You know, this is a new fields go through these revolutions, and psychology's going through one wherein those former theorists and ideas and such become antiquated. It's no longer valid. This is the psychology of the future, is one of the words one of the labels that he uses in our book to designate it. And it really is, and it's wow, what a wonderful evolutionary transcendence of former thinking. That's one of the reasons we call it paradigmatic, because just to emphasize the black and white shift here that is now true.
We had 3 clients, mother, father, and son, youngest son, who was probably 30. And they came because they were having a lot of trouble with this youngest son who was through with college and was trying to work in the family business. The other two boys worked out great. And so here was this third son. And so as they had been to traditional therapy and just at some point just quit it, and then searched around and finally got our names and decided to come see us. And they told us that the building that they were in, they would go up and they would have their session, and then they would all get in a separate elevator to leave. They would be so mad at each other when it was time to leave that they weren't willing to ride down in the same elevator with any of the other family members, which I thought was hilarious. And they said, boy, this is really different, and we really appreciate it. And the dad, it was so sweet. I hope I don't make myself cry here, but he looked at his son and he said, we knew something was wrong, didn't we? And his son said, yes. He said, but we didn't know how to put our finger on it. But he said, he and I kept looking at each other like, what's going on here? You know? And because they both had so much common sense. Oh, they worked in foundations for buildings and homes, and they both knew so much stuff about, you know, doing things do this from the uphill. I don't know. They both had, at some point I said, are you guys architects? They said, no, but architects call us all the time. And I said, well, I can see why. I said, y'all's logic is awesome, you know, and what they understood. And they could even, you know, they could tell something was up with this other stuff. It's not helping. It's enough so that they quit, even though they still had a big problem. And good to say the family's doing great, and the son's working for the mom and dad, like his brothers are. So
way back in the 70s, I did something called primal scream therapy.
Oh, yeah? Oh, you
Yeah.
Wow.
Arthur Janov, and I'd get down on the floor and same kind of thing, beat pillows and scream. But I would get finished with a session of that, and I was never able to come up with things bad about my parents.
Good for you.
So I thought I wasn't trying hard enough, so I would make things up. Eventually, I'd make things up about my parents and all. And but it never, you know, again, it never came to me that they did anything wrong. And so at the end, I was going to ask for my money back because I didn't. Anyway.
Yeah. Sid was just such a, I mean, he was just appalled by that. Like that, that spreading mental illness, what he called it, you know, I mean, he took direct aim at that, and he's really helped to expose, you know, the loss, you know, like to those. I mean, I know we could kind of laugh. I mean, he was very. It just broke his heart to see the misery and pain of misguided effort to help people. You know, it just, you know, he was just such a wonderful visionary. He was a visionary about that, and knew it because he had samples of that, you know, just like you did, Gil, a little bit, you know, and he saw the crazy making insanity of it, you know, and he really, once he had this experience, he knew, and he said, you know, that insecurity and fear and unhappiness were not, those were due to ignorance of the mind and how it worked, not due to your past or your problems or your personality or any other things. They were just due to our own ignorance about the principles. And so he really he really brought something really important, you know, to the future. It was just astonishing.
That's what I got out of that article again about when he was brought into the school. Was that West Virginia University? West Virginia, they were going?
Yeah, that was West Virginia, yeah.
And, yeah, he really, I mean, again, when I first read it, it was, well, why did he come down on these therapists like that? I mean, but then in getting it, just what you just said there, he couldn't sit still with that he really believed that they were hurting, doing damage
Yeah.
to people by.
You know, it wasn't even that he believed it, he knew it. You know,
Yeah.
he knew, he saw it, and he, there was just something so simply wrong about it, you know, to him that it just was, you know, he just would say, you know, like he would say things like that all the therapists who were doing anything like that ought to have their license revoked, you know, and go find another line of work or something, you know, or pay reparations, or you know, go back and get retraining in the principles, because it was just, you know, it was horrific to him, the psychic damage done with you know, processes and procedures and intellectual machinations that the world would go through anyway, but then be further encouraged to do that through the mental health professions was to him just insult to injury, you know. And
he was not a shrinking violet.
No, he really was quite, you know, quite adamant about that. But it was helpful to see, you know, I didn't realize what a champion he was for the mentally ill and for for human suffering. He really found an answer for human suffering, and he wasn't kidding. And he didn't, you know, he wasn't, there was no leeway, you know, it wasn't like, well, yeah, okay, that's fine, go back into the past, or, you know, whatever. He was not about to condone that, or say, you know, look the other way or whatever. He tackled it, and which was interesting because of his background. I mean, he wasn't really a you know, an educated person, you know, but he saw something that was true, and he knew how the mind worked, and he
became a wise person.
Oh, just amazing. And I, you know, I have to say, wow, it should totally change my life. And I know many people on this call, and many thousands and thousands of others have been changed by that. But that was like, I mean, he was just like, you know, just, you know, like Valda remembered him saying once, one step to the outside is a step in the wrong direction. So he was very lucidly specific about that, and he showed no quarter about that. He taught about it, but he wasn't really about to ignore it or look the other way.
Well, there were times when he was polite, and it was probably a very good idea, and then there were times when he wasn't, and that was also a very good idea. And he tackled us. Somebody asked me what was the one word that I would say about Sydney Banks. I said confrontational. I mean, everything I thought I knew that was right, I ended up learning, oh, this isn't true. This is, you know, this is based on an idea that isn't even true. So it was a lot. It's a lot. maybe other people didn't have that much falseness in their idea of what they thought life was or how it worked. But for me, it was, I was quiet for a year. Everything I started to say, I'd think, no, don't say that, you know. So
That's strong medicine.
Oh, man.
You know, those of you that know Valda, quiet for a year, that would be a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. I couldn't believe it. But everything I would start to say, it would just be, no, 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 don't say that.
Yeah. That's great.
What a remarkable thing to have happen is to meet someone like that. I did always want to know what was true, even as a child. The only question I'd ever ask them was, is that true? You know, and because I had enough instincts and common sense about stuff that I thought, you know, I don't think that's true. I think they would like for me to believe that so I would behave better. But I don't think that that's a true thing. So I was constantly asking them, was it true? Of course, they always told me yes. And, but so I did have that innate thing of always wanting to know what was true. And then I met a guy who knew what was true. The first time I heard him talk, he's saying things that are true. And I know I insightfully knew they were true. On the inside of me, it would say, that's true. And then he'd go along and talk about something, set up the next thing he was going to say. And then I would think, that's true. And after about 7 of them, I thought, who are you? Where did you come from? Where did a couple of people like you come from? This is remarkable. You've said 7 true things. If I'd have ever found a book that had 7 true things in it, I would have bought one for everybody I knew and given it to them. And said, this is the greatest book that was ever written, you know. And he just, and it was in a way that I could understand, like when he said that one step to the outside is 1 step in the wrong direction. I thought, well, thank you very much for saying something plain spoken, you know, and directive to me. I really do appreciate that. And he said that back when I was 25 years old, and I still remember that he said it, and it still helps me because every now and then I'll think, oh, we've gotten off point here. You know, let's step back into the inside out line and see what seems important now. So. How long does this thing last?
We're almost. Are
we past?
We're a little past.
Okay.
Maybe this is a good place to stop.
Nice to see everybody.
Yeah, great town hall.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Love to all of you.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Aloha.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi,
All right.
Mary.
Thank you.
Hi, Rita.
Stay safe, all of you.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Hi, Bob.
Hi. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Everybody, thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm closing the meeting now. Take care, everyone. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Britt.